What's happening, YouTube? Jonathan Pariente, the Execution 10 here, coming at you guys with another video. I want to ask you guys to please continue to check and subscribe to my channel for more YouTube videos. And as you can see today, in my Yankees sweater for what was the biggest news of the offseason so far, in the young offseason that has, well, been about a month or so in. The top pitcher on the free agency market is gone. The New York Yankees made the move that we as fans were waiting for them to make for a long time. They needed to get a starting pitcher. They got one. Gerrit Cole is finally going to the Yankees for 9 years, $324 million. For one, I commend Brian Cashman for finally pulling the trigger. I commend the Steinbrenners, Hal and Hank, for finally ending the penny pinching for the last couple of years and finally spend freaking money. Now, everyone in the baseball world is, well, of course, mad that the Yankees took the biggest name in the market off and threw a boatload of money at him just to sign him. And everybody all upset, oh, this is how baseball is. Why are pitchers making this much money? And, oh, it's the Yankees. They always like to buy a World Series. Well, the Yankees didn't buy a World Series for the last 10 years. Yeah, they signed Sabathia and they signed A.J. Burnett in 2009, but who did the Yankees really go after 2009? What big money signings did they make for those past 10 years until now? Absolutely zero. Now, before I go into more about the Gerrit Cole trade, I want to go back to where he started from, because this is somebody the Yankees were coveting since 2008. Let's go back to the 2008 draft. Gerrit Cole was selected 28th in the draft by the Yankees. Looked like he was going to go to the Yanks, but he decided rather than to jump into the major league scene right away, he decided to play another year in college. And he did. So, Cole went back to school, had a dominant 2009, and then, of course, 2010. And then finally, in 2011, he was drafted finally by the Pittsburgh Pirates with the #1 pick in the draft. Gerrit Cole would make his major league debut in 2013 on June the 11th. Everybody that knew who Gerrit Cole was knew he had great stuff. He could throw 99 to 100 miles an hour, but he wasn't striking out hitters as people thought he was early on in his career. It took him time to get that swing and miss stuff. Now, fast forward a couple of years later. Fast forward to 2018. Free agency for Gerrit Cole was upon the Pirates. They decided to not keep him. He went to Houston. And once he went to Houston, in fact, he was traded to Houston. He was not signed to a deal. The Pirates were kind of selling off players, and they dealt their prized #1 pick to the Astros for 2 pitchers, couple position players, Joe Musgrove, Michael Feliz, Colin Moran, and Jason Martin. Little did we know Gerrit Cole was going to break out as the starting pitcher that he was, and that he is now. It seemed like every pitcher that went to Houston of late has unlocked some hidden stuff that they didn't have before. Charlie Morton, for example, was another guy played on the Pirates and played alongside Gerrit Cole. And he went from a guy that just was so bad, 500 or so pitcher, could only throw about 91, 92 miles an hour, goes to Pittsburgh, goes to the Astros, and suddenly he's throwing 98, 99 miles an hour. Garrett Cole went from being a fly ball type pitcher, contact type pitcher, goes to Houston, and he's blowing hitters away, striking out over 10 batters a game. Coincidence? I don't know. But Garrett Cole had the most two dominant years of his career as an Astro. And that's what made him so valuable in this draft, in this coming free agency. And the Yankees, who have been burned on previous free agency signings during the trade deadline, last year, and of course, 2017, when they let Justin Verlander slip through their fingers and he went to Houston. The Yankees were not going to let Garrett Cole get away again. So now you lock up Garrett Cole, 9 years. Several teams, particularly in his native California, were coveting for his services. The Angels, the Dodgers. Maybe Houston was going to try to make a move to get him back, but it didn't look like it. After Game 7 of the World Series this past October, and the fact that he wasn't even used in a Game 7 where he could have been used, and really now that's what cost Houston, in the end, the World Series. It's no surprise that he left Houston. So now, you look at the Yankees now, and, pretty much the whole story was going to be the Yankees would be damned if they didn't sign Cole. They were going to hear it from their fans, oh, why didn't you sign him? They're going to be damned if they do sign Cole, because every other fan around baseball of other teams are going to go hating on the Yankees. Oh, they're the Yankees. They buy a team. They spend over $300 million. Well, in the end, this is what baseball needed. The way the game has been going of late, and the way last year's trade free agency period was, where almost nobody was signing anywhere, this is a little breath of fresh air. Somebody had to make a big move. The Red Sox did so a few years back, getting Chris Sale. Yankees didn't make that move. Houston made the biggest heist of the century in 2017, getting Verlander. Yankees didn't go after him. 2018, before this move finally happened, Houston made the trade to get Garrett Cole. Yankees could have been in that trade, but they backed out. They didn't want to give up Andujar. Garrett Cole went to Houston. Missed opportunity there. 2019, Zach Greinke was on the market. He went to Houston last minute again. Yankees could have gotten a pitcher to start the free agency period, looking like Patrick Corbin was going to be the guy. He didn't want to take, the Yankees didn't offer the money that he was looking for. He signed with Washington, and he won a World Series this year. So the Yankees were not going to let those past deals come back to haunt them anymore. It was time. They had to make a move. They knew their starting pitching was the biggest problem. They needed consistent starters. And Garrett Cole is now the first piece of that. Will the Yankees go after maybe another name or two? We'll see. But the biggest name is now off the market. Yes, the Yankees had to bite the bullet a little bit. In getting Garrett Cole, they had to also not deal him. They had to let Didi Gregorius walk. And that was not easy. Didi Gregorius signed with Philly for 1 year with the Phillies. And of course, I'm never going to forget what Didi brought. I love the way Didi played. I love how he filled the void that Jeter left. And he was able to take on the role as a true professional. I'm sure he'll do fine in Philadelphia. I'm curious to see what he will bring to the Phillies and to that young group and really help develop their young kids. And maybe be a consistent veteran in that lineup as he did for the Yanks. So, With one big move made, the Yankees getting Cole, now you look at the Yankees rotation and now it looks scary. James Paxton gave you a little preview of the type of pitcher he could be in the playoffs. Tanaka has proven what he can do in the playoffs. You hope the Domingo Germán issue gets resolved with the whole domestic abuse. I don't know if it's probably going to lead to a suspension for how many games, I don't know. But if Germán can duplicate what he was last year, oh boy. And if the Yankees will have a healthy Severino and he goes back to the dominant Severino, look out. And maybe the Yankees could either bring up another pitcher from their farm. The Yankees are trying to also deal Jay Happ, which I think makes sense. You have Davy Garcia, who could really come up. The Yankees are very high on him. I'm curious to see eventually what he could bring to the table. So now the Yankees have a plan in place now. They have pieces on this club that now there's no more excuses for the Yanks. With Garrett Cole, they must win a World Series. Maybe two. Now, my issue with this 9-year deal. How many dominant years are you going to get out of Cole at 29 years old, which he is now? Yanks have already been burned on big contracts like this. They signed A-Rod to 10 years from 2007. Yankees were able to get about a solid 5 or 6, 7 years out of him. But he tailed off at the latter end. The Yankees had signed Jacoby Ellsbury to 7 years. Look where that got them. Jacoby Ellsbury couldn't even stay healthy for even a whole year. And then look what happened. Well, look what happened when they signed CeCe. I know, look, I get it. CeCe was a very valuable piece for the Yankees, but through the last 3 or 4 years until he finally retired, he was not the same CeCe anymore. So you have to wonder, how many years will you get out of Cole? My estimation, you'll get a solid Garrett Cole for about 5 or 6 years, tops. What happens the last 3? He could go on a downward slide. So this is a big risk for the Yanks, but it was a risk they had to take. They needed to finally show teams again who the Yankees are. A team that's not afraid to spend in the offseason. Somebody that captured the spirit of what George Steinbrenner was, which is what Hank and Hal were not doing until now. They had to make a move to listen to the fan base of this franchise. They did not win a World Series in this entire decade. Something the Yankees have never done in a long time. Actually, something they didn't do at all after the World Series in 1978. They didn't win another World Series until 96. They'd been to a World Series in between from 79 and in the 80s. They'd been to a World Series, yes. Didn't win one in 18 years then. They didn't even appear in a World Series from 2010 until 20. So, the Yankees now made one of the biggest splashes so far in the free agency period. Do they have other moves in store? I think so. What will the Yankees do for the rest of this offseason? What other positions will they need to fill? Maybe they go after another starter, perhaps. Maybe they get a little help at first base. I still think they need to look for a left-handed bat. But this was only the beginning of what free agency is going to bring. And don't sleep on the Mets either. They're building up their team, and they're looking at players. They've already made a couple small additions already, and they're coveting Dellin Betances off the Yanks. So Yankees now have to make that a priority to try to make sure he doesn't walk to, of all places, the Mets. We will see. Free agency is really just now beginning. Jonathan Perriente, The Education 10, saying bye for now.